Adult Education and Workforce Development Statewide webinar for October 12th, 2022. I am Jerry Hafner, and joining me is the Adult Education team and special guest.
Did we lose Jerry?
No, the screen didn't advance, did it?
Ah, well.
There we
again.
go. Sorry about that. I wanted to bring you a story this morning about Michael Weltzel. His story is one of survival. On October 21st, he writes, 2019, at 8 a.m., my life reset. A stolen Ford truck heading east on Carroll Road hit me head on the driver's side as I was driving west on the same road. The approximate speed, considering the speed of both vehicles, was 150 miles per hour. The driver of the truck fled the scene on foot and has never been located. My heart stopped 8 times. I had a collapsed left lung, a broken hip, broken back, broken left leg, broken right shoulder, broken left arm, broken pelvis, and my head suffered a gash and concussion, a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. Wow. I was unconscious for 2.5 weeks, and then I woke up. I did not know how to speak, and my mind could not process words that were spoken to me. I had no memory of the accident. I had to relearn how to speak, spell, and read. While I am still recovering from physical injuries of the accident, the TBI has been the biggest struggle to overcome. My TBI was on the left side and front side of my brain, which controls language and short-term memory. Before the accident in 2018, with only 2 months left of high school, I dropped out. Thinking I could obtain a diploma faster, I went to Anthus Career Center in Fort Wayne to the adult education program there for my high school equivalency diploma. But I only stayed for a couple of months because I obtained a job and felt I didn't need a diploma. However, I returned to Anthus in the fall of 2021, 2 years after my accident. Because of my brain injury, I thought I would never pass the high school equivalency exam. I started classes anyway to see if I had any ability. I started understanding concepts a lot better than what I thought. 4 months after beginning class, I started taking the HiSET. I passed all the subjects except for reading. After a lengthy process applying for extra time for the reading test, I was eventually granted extended time. I studied further in reading and passed that section. I am now a graduate. Currently, I'm saving money for college to go for my dream job. I want to be a diesel mechanic. My advice to others is you want to have an easier and more understandable life. Knowledge is the power of life. Second, don't be afraid of committing to a life-changing choice. You can either succeed or fail, but just try. What a wonderful story, and thank you, Fort Wayne, for sharing that. Let's just spend a few minutes reviewing our state data as we do in all of our calls. Here are the final numbers for program year 2021, which was reported to the U.S. Department of Education on October 3rd. Enrollment was up by more than 1,889 students, 11% increase when compared to the same time a year ago. And of course, as I've said in previous webinars, ELL fueled the increase. Measurable skill gains were down, however, by 1.35 percentage points, and HSEs were down. The difference was 949 diplomas, or a 20% decrease. You see two figures for HSCs on the screen for program year 2021. The first number, 3,795, are HSCs that were the last gain earned on NRS Table 4. The second figure, 3,899, were HSCs earned regardless of the last gain. And it will be several months before the U.S. Department of Education posts state reports and we can determine our state rankings, but we'll certainly do that and look forward to that. Now let's turn to the current program year. Enrollment, I'm happy to report, is up by nearly 1,000 students, a 12% increase when compared to the same time a year ago. Measurable skill gains are about the same. HSCs are down a bit, but the difference in HSCs is only 22 diplomas, or about a 4% decrease, which is not bad considering. At the IAACE conference, there was an excellent concurrent session by InvestEd. InvestEd has been providing students with solutions to put higher education within reach, and they have helped thousands of Hoosier families with free expert advice. This should be a resource for every adult education program. There is a telephone number and email contact to reach directly InvestEd. And a reminder, the FAFSA is the starting point to access federal, state, and institutional money for our students. And if you want our students to get a head start, your students to get a head start on financial aid for the 2023-2024 program year, the opening date for the FAFSA was just a couple weeks ago. It was October 1st, 2022. So let's move on to Bart Doan. He is here today. He has updates for youth initiatives and JAG. Welcome, Bart.
Hey, Jerry. Next slide is good to go. Alrighty, so our annual Young Adult Services Summit and Award Ceremony is going to take place on November 9th, 2022. It will be at the Indiana Government Center South. The time frame will be 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Geez. And please just reach out if you have interest in attending. If you have interest in attending, one of the sessions, both of the sessions, just want to pop in for a little bit, or just want to see the awards. It's always kind of a good time to see our Young Adult Services staff come together and get honored for their hard work. We usually anticipate around 70 to 80 staff members from around the state. So again, just reach out if you're interested in being part of it. This is our first time holding it down at IGCS, so some of you might be down there anyway if you want to pop in. Next slide. Alrighty, from a JAG perspective, I just wanted to give some data on with the new school year starting and sort of the graduation rate for each region, and kind of give you an idea of some of the raw numbers of students that regionally you might consider reaching out to their JAG specialists. Now remember, the JAG specialist is following up with them monthly for a year, so this is whether they graduate or not. So this is kind of a great time to still engage these students that haven't graduated, because they're still part of the program. They're still being offered services. As you can see, there aren't a lot of them, but it's still, 143 people that probably could use adult education services. So I just encourage you to reach out to your local JAG leadership, the managers, the coordinators. If you have a relationship with the specialists, please go ahead and reach out and say, hey, I see you have, Region 5, 11 students that didn't graduate, can we connect with them, get them in adult ed services, things of that nature. So if you need any additional contacts or information, please just go ahead and let me know. And then one other thing I forgot when I was talking about the Young Adult Services, we do have an awards nomination form. Nominations are due to be in this Friday. at close of business. But if you are working closely with someone in the Work One system who's a youth worker, please let me know, reach out. I'll share that nomination form with you if you want to nominate them for something. So we'll be reviewing those next week so we can get the awards procured and here on time for the 9th. So that's all I got, Jerry. If there are any questions, please feel free to just ask away. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bart. There's that nomination form that you mentioned.
So there's two of them, Jerry. The first is the Young Adult Services nomination form from that first slide. I didn't have the link, but then there's a JAG Specialist of the Month. And this is sort of a roving bi-monthly link. You can nominate a JAG Specialist if you've connected with one and say, you know, that they deserve to be honored or something like that. We put them on social media on a monthly basis, usually about the second week of the month. So please feel free to nominate as many of those folks as you want, and hopefully we're able to honor all of them in some way.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Bart. I appreciate all the information today.
Thanks,
well,
Jerry.
moving on, our colleagues from HiSET are here today. We'd like to welcome Tanya and Adam, who you have met before, but we also have a new guest, not new to HiSET, but new to you. That is Joanne Wingate. I know the last few weeks have been kind of challenging, so I will allow you all to.
I'm not hearing Jerry. Did we lose Jerry? I did not hear him. Did you lose me?
You're fine, Joanne. I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great.
Go right ahead, sure.
Okay. And good morning, all. I am Joanne Wingate. I am Vice President of Client Services, and we provide the support to the State Board Administrators. On behalf of PSI, we do recognize that there have been significant challenges over the last few weeks with the launching of the HiSET program. We are actively working on those. Some items that are of significance that were released yesterday afternoon, early evening into production. The age waiver process has now been automated, so you will be able to go in and apply your age waivers to the profile level. They will not need to be done on each exam level for your test takers. Those instructions for that will be sent out to everyone today, but they are already available on the hiset.org website under the age waiver process. So please be sure to begin looking at those, and you can begin applying those age waivers on your own. It's a very simple process that was put into place. Secondly, we know that there have been issues surrounding particularly the correctional institutions and those who have restricted testing or at their sites around the issue of utilizing one single email address multiple times. That too was released to production last evening. Those instructions are also available on the website, but when you go to register a test taker, you will see in their profile there'll be a box at the bottom, and if it's a unique ID that needs to be used, then you can just uncheck, or excuse me, if the email is to be used multiple times, you uncheck that box, and that allows you to use the email multiple times within the record. We are working on, we met with Jerry and team yesterday. We are working on test sites who are unable to schedule due to limitations that are showing up in their test site schedules. The paper pencil process, I am sending out very specific instructions this morning on how to use the UPS return materials, and just walking through step by step the additional process to use for paper pencil. We have a leadership meeting that is meeting again this morning to really discuss the additional issues and concerns that are being brought to us, and to get estimated times of completion for fixes for those, and sharing that out to all HiSET states. So that is where we are at right now, Jerry.
Well, thank you very much, Joanne. I appreciate your follow-up and everything that you're doing to try to solve these issues.
Mhm.
Is there any additional information that either Tanya or Adam would like to express at this point?
This is Tanya. I just wanted to thank everyone for their patience, and definitely we understand the frustration. We're working through that, and we will be reaching out, as Joanne mentioned, to each of the test centers.
Very good.
And I would echo the words of my colleagues. We appreciate the frustrations that you're feeling, and as you can see, there's a tremendous increasing amount of resources being brought to bear on these issues so that we can start providing solution-based answers, from here on in. Thank you for your patience.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Tanya, Joanne, and Adam. I don't know if Adam, if you can stay around a little bit longer. I'm sure there will be some questions at the end that maybe that you can help maybe shed some additional light on. So thank you very much, HiSET team. Well, in the light of HiSET, our HSE coordinator, Megan, is here, and she has some additional information to share. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Jerry. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, HiSET team, for that update. I appreciate all that. I just have a few updates to share with you, please. Next slide. Just so you know, I think a lot of people have been utilizing this, but in case you have not heard, and I know a lot of people are been on fall break and whatnot, if you are a test center and you are having questions, difficulties, please make for sure that you email PSI at siteadmin@psionline.com and then CC me on the email. The reason being is because if I get the same issue more than once, I love to put it all in one email and make sure that everyone is aware that this is an ongoing issue. Next slide, please. So the exit form, there has been a lot of questions regarding the exit form. There are two parts to this form. Part A is where you have to have a student, parent, and a principal's signature. Those three signatures are required on the exit form. The principal's signature recommends that the student exit from school. Part B is the superintendent's signature on the form. Superintendent or a principal's or designee signature is a recommendation that the student can take a high school equivalency test. So if you have a superintendent who has retired, who has left, but there's not anyone in, there has to be someone that's in the interim of taking that position. And you can see on the IC 22-4.1-18, Chapter 18, that is the policy regarding this. Next slide, please. Exit from homeschool. On the exit form, again, there are still two parts to it. Part A is the student, parent, and principal signature on the form. The only difference between Part A from public school and Part A from homeschool is that the principal signature can be a parent's signature. So the principal signature recommends that the student exit from school. For the parent signature, a parent or homeschool administrator can sign. That's the only difference between a public school and a homeschool. Part B is the superintendent's signature on the form. The superintendent or principal's or designee signature is recommendation for that the student can take a high school equivalency test, and that signature is required. Next slide, please. Exit form letter. On the DWD website, there is a separate letter for a superintendent or designee's recommendation for an examinee to take that high school equivalency. I sent this out last week. If the superintendent, principal, or designee signature is not on the exit form, Part 2, the letter is not required. So if the signature is on the exit form on Part 2 or Part B, then you do not need a letter. If the superintendent, principal, or designee signature is not on the exit form, part 2, the letter will have to be signed by the superintendent, principal, or designee. Next slide, please. All right, data. I am going to go over briefly some data, and please keep in mind in July of 2021, this was our first month of high school equivalency testing with HiSET. So please do not be alarmed by these numbers, but I want to give you a side-by-side comparison as to how we did from July of 2021 to July of 2022. So for the battery, we had a number of 16 testers. We had a 62.5% or 50% pass rate. For math, we had 17 testers. We had a 64.71%. Science, we had 18 testers, and we had an 83.33% pass rate. Social studies, we had 18 testers with 72.22%. Excuse me. For reading, we had 17 testers with 82.35%. And writing, we had 17 testers with a pass rate of 76.47%. In 2022 of July, we had 331 entire battery with a 56.80% pass rate. Math, we had 271 testers with a pass rate of 74.91%. Science, we had 222 testers with an 89.19%. Social studies, we had 229 testers with an 85.59% pass rate. In reading, we had 259 testers with a 77.61%, and we had writing of a 258 testers with 76.36 pass rate. You can see that you might be thinking these numbers are a little low. Keep in mind that, we're also, this is during the summer too, so some testing centers might be closed periodically throughout the month of July for a little bit of a break. Next slide, please. Okay, in August, you can see the numbers are going to be a little bit higher with everybody coming back from summer break. So in 2021, in August, for the second month of testing for the battery, we had 116 testers with a 56.90% pass rate. In math, we had 122 with a pass rate at 72.13%. Science, we had 131 with an 89.31% pass rate. Social studies, we had a number of testers at 139 with a 79.86% pass rate. In reading, we had 114 testers with an 81.25%. Writing, 118 testers, and we had a pass rate of 77.12%. In August of 2022, for the entire battery, we had 554 testers with a pass rate of 59.93%. With math, we had 459 testers with a 77.12%. Science, we had 438 testers with a 87.67% pass rate. Social studies, we had 448 testers with a pass rate of 88.62%. Reading, we had 494 testers with a 76.11% pass rate. And in writing, we had 452 testers with 81.19% pass rate. Also on 2021, keep in mind, if you see these numbers seem a little low, we were also doing tasks at the same time. We were kind of doing 2 tests just to try to make for sure that anyone who was trying to pass the task test had an opportunity to do that. Next slide, please. Here is what the numbers look like for September. Numbers are going to be greater. For September of 2021, we had 300 people attempt or take the battery. We had a 57.33% pass rate. Math was 325 students that took the test, or testers. Our pass rate was at 75.08%. Science was 315, 87.62% passing. Social studies was 318 testers with 83.65% pass rate. Reading was 326, 81.25% pass rate. And writing was 325 students with 75.69% pass rate. For September of 2022, the number of testers that the state of Indiana has for the entire battery was 627 with a pass rate of 59.97%. Math is we had 541 testers with a pass percentage rate of 76.71%. Science, we had 502 testers with 90.44% pass rate. In social studies, we had 529 with a pass percentage rate of 88.09%. Reading, we had 562 testers with a pass percentage rate of 79.72%. In writing, we had 546 number of testers with an 80.95% pass rate. That is all the data I have for you this morning. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much, Megan. On that exit form, I will point out, particularly for homeschool students, Part A or Part 1 requires the student signature, the principal signature, that can be the homeschool administrator who's serving as principal, which can be the parent, and many times it is the parent, and the parent signature. For a homeschool student who is exiting from homeschool, then Part B or Part 2 of the form is the superintendent, principal's, or designee's recommendation for the student to take the HSC test. Now, just because the homeschool administrator signed it as the principal in Part A or Part 1 of it, he or she cannot sign the superintendent's recommendation, because on that slide there was a very specific point down at the very bottom of the slide, a superintendent, principal, or designee as described in statute, Indiana statute. And the homeschool administrator, who is the principal, does not meet the superintendent's definition in statute or the principal's definition in statute. So you have to, if they're exiting from homeschool, you have to find a superintendent or principal or designee who meets that legal standard, that legal definition in state standard. And that is not the homeschool administrator, that is not the homeschool principal. So thank you so much for pointing that out, Megan. I appreciate you going over the exit form. It's never easy, but I hope some of this information is helpful. So let's move on to Donna. Donna has some grant and fiscal updates.
Hi there, everybody. We are having a little bit of a technology issue. If you see that on your screen, we're working on it, but hopefully we can at least talk to you, even if you might not see our slides. Just want to bring you a few fiscal and grant reminders that contracts, as of yesterday, all of the contracts have gone through the review process, and 35 had been fully executed. And I saw an email, a couple of emails today that 2 more had been fully executed. So we are getting closer to having all of the contracts completed. And as all of the providers know, there was a calculation error that happened on the allocation about your program admin split. It will be corrected by doing budget modifications. You won't have to do anything on that part. I'll take care of it. And in order to be prepared for those budget modifications, I had sent out a request for you to send me how you need your ABE, IET, and WEI funds split between program and admin. I need to have that information back before I can move forward on budget modifications. So once everything is in, we'll move forward on that. Please remember that the amount that you're getting, that you have an ABE that showed on your award letter, has to stay the same, and the total amount of your IET WEI as shown on your award letter stays the same. It's just the program admin split that could change. Let me see. And if you have a fully executed contract, you received a confirmation from me yesterday, if you did, you could go ahead and start reimbursing. Please use the forms that you received. I think it was in August that I sent those out. And until we get the modification done, those will suffice. If you have any questions, let me know. And I think maybe some of our issues are finished here. So back to Jerry.
Well, thank you, Donna. Laura can move forward to the next slide. There we go. As we've said before, we are, as you know, rapidly approaching the end of the calendar year, December 31st. And as I've mentioned on previous webinars, and as last year, there will be 2 mid-year incentives for achieving performance for program year 2022. Grantees or subrecipients will receive a mid-year performance incentive for achieving a minimum of 56% on NRS Table 4, Column J by December 31st, 2022. And the second year mid-year incentive, grantees or subrecipients will receive a mid-year performance incentive for meeting and/or exceeding an enrollment goal by December 31st, again, 2022. So those dates are, the December 31st is rapidly approaching. So I know you're making good progress on meeting your mid-year incentives. Laura has more information to share about the mid-year enrollment incentive and other news regarding enrollments and progress that we are meeting toward our enrollment goals. So, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And just bear with us. Like I said, we're trying to forward these slides and they'll catch up with me here in a moment. But first off, we just want to talk real quick about the mid-year incentive because it will be 63% of your total year enrollment goal. And I think everybody's aware, we've shared that in other statewide webinars, but we are exactly 1 quarter into the program year. So let's talk a little bit about our enrollment goals and where they are. And the enrollment is a focus this year because we all know that we dropped below 20,000 enrollments in the past program year, and we haven't done that really since I can remember. So we really want to make that focus on rebuilding our enrollment. Oh, there we go. Next slide, please. Thank you, right there. There's reasons behind rebuilding. It justifies our pre-pandemic levels of funding and potential future increases. As Jerry has shared and Marilyn has shared, we are working towards increasing our funding in adult education, and making sure we rebuild that enrollment is a key component in justifying that request. It demonstrates our capacity to meet the need in our communities. Just as a reminder real quick, we were close to 25,000 students in enrollment pre-pandemic, and we have roughly the same number of providers. So we really want to work towards getting back up to that number. And lastly, it reinforces the narrative that Indiana is a leader in adult education. As we've shared in previous state webinars, nationally, the enrollment has dropped to about 700,000 from a high of 1.8 million a few years ago. So this is a national issue. And once again, we want to make sure that Indiana is leading the way and showing how to get this done in a challenging environment where obviously the HSE, a lot of people are getting jobs. That can be a little bit more difficult, but we have some great strategies here in Indiana. So we are very optimistic. So there have been some questions on how we set enrollment goals, and we're going to talk real briefly. This is information we've shared in previous webinars, but just as a review, we really looked at community need on how to create new enrollment growth. And then we talked a lot about balancing foundational or public-facing classes, making sure that we're serving our communities where the need is, as well as the business community and local businesses who have employees who are struggling to meet expectations because maybe a lack of a credential or lack of English skills. So let's go on to the next slide. So how did we set those enrollment goals? I did get a couple of questions when I was at the IAACE just to ask for a review, and it's been several months. It was in April and May that we set enrollment goals for our programs. And just to review, how did we put those together? We looked at things from a regional perspective, and we shared in regional meetings what the community need was, and we generated that by looking at the HSE needs in the community, and I'll share a chart in the next slide, but we started by looking at a 5-year trend in enrollment for that region, and then also the current year enrollment. And we gave the same weight to current year enrollment as we did to the 5-year trend, because we thought it was really important to look at programs where they were and make sure we weren't being unrealistic in the goals we were setting. So the program specific goals were set on that community need and based on previous year trends and current year trend. Once again, we were looking at current year through April, roughly May, when we set those goals and had those meetings. And those specific goals were part of your program goals in the PDF plan. So when we look at community need, we're looking at this map here, and we've shared this a couple of times, and I know this came up at the IAACE meeting, but this is produced through the American Community Survey, which is census data, and this map is generated through the Indiana Business Research Center, which is housed at Indiana University. And it gives us age 18 to 64-year-olds without a high school diploma or HSE by county. And you can see that totals up to 434,105 for the year 2020, which is, like I said, based off of census data. And then we take the number of students served in our 21-22, which, as Jerry said, we just closed that year out. That 16,970 is a little bit different than our total number because we take out long-term incarcerated students, not county jails, but more of our state correctional facilities, and we make sure that we're really looking at who we're serving in the community space, not people who are not in the employment pool due to long-term incarceration. So that gives us 16,970. When you do a little division, that gives us 3.9% of need being met based on those numbers and this chart. Our state goal, as we explained earlier this year, is 5%. We would like to get to 5% of that 434, which gets us close to that 25,000 number. So let's move on to the next slide. So now that we have those 21-22 final numbers, let's look at by region. The HSE need, once again, was generated from the map we just shared, and the total enrollment. As you can see from this chart, we have a pretty wide range. While we want the state to be at 5% total, we have regions right now ranging from 1.9% of need served all the way up to 6.43. This is important because enrollment goals were set on based on where the need is. So let's say as a region, you're at the lower end of the spectrum, you may have a little bit higher enrollment goals because it is our goal at the state to make sure that we are equitably serving every region in which we have providers. So there was a little bit of variation on how those enrollment goals were set. Region 8 was at 6.43. So we don't want them to get too far out of range with what we're doing at the state level. So this added a little bit more nuance in how those goals were set. So enrollment update by region, this is where we are as of last Friday, October 7th. And it's a comparative point in the third column as far as what percentage that enrollment represents towards the mid-year incentive. So once again, you can see a lot of variation here. We have region 2, which is 71.9% towards their goal. They have 764 students enrolled now. So they're getting pretty close. It's going to vary even more when we go into individual providers. And we're going to be looking at that information as we go into our regional meetings following the statewide webinar. So IDOC's at 67%. And once again, I get there's a lot of variation because some programs start later than others. If you know that there are classes starting that haven't gone into your enrollment yet, that could justify, maybe lagging a little bit towards this goal. If I had to say where you should be, probably that 60 to 65% would be a healthy place right now as far as getting towards that mid-year incentive. So if you are concerned about where your enrollment is, either as a region or as an individual program, you can reach out to state staff or Rob Moore for ideas. Rob will be on this call in just a few minutes. You can connect with your peer programs because as we go through that regional information, we are going to share where programs are towards that enrollment goal. So you might have someone nearby who's got some practices in place that is helping them get there a little bit more quickly. And you could consider different outreach to partners or services. And then, of course, Camelia will be sharing some things here in a moment. One thing we are introducing, because we are seeing such an uptick, such an increase in our ELL population, is we understand for some programs that can create a challenge. Serving ELL students is different than serving ABE in that it's a different assessment. There are some language considerations. We get that it's not easy for programs to necessarily switch over staff or bring in new staff to serve this population. So we are working to create a support network. It's going to be called the English Language Learner Professional Learning Community, and that's a mouthful. So we're going to go with ELL PLC. And we want to provide extra training and support through this initiative to any ELL instructor, with especially those who may not have as much experience with this type of class. This initiative is working to leverage experienced instructors who are in the field to help create these virtual trainings. And then lastly, to create a community of professionals to connect with each other. This is different than the PDF network because this will be open to any ELL teacher who might be interested in learning more, increasing their experience or their skill set in this area. The first virtual training will be taking place in mid-November. We are still settling on a training date and time, and as soon as we have that, we will communicate that to PDFs and directors. The training topic for this first virtual training seminar is successfully onboarding new ELL students. And I want to thank Michelle Langwell of Impact Institute, Alice Culp of South Bend, and Gretchen Easterday of Vincennes for agreeing to lead this. They all have great experience out in the field, and I'm sure it will be extremely helpful. They're going to provide information not only on how you structure orientations to support people who may not have the English capability to fully interact with your staff, but also the TABE Classee and the locator, because we want to make sure we're setting our students up for success from the moment they walk into a program. So I'm really looking forward to this, and as soon as we have information, we will share that with the field. Then 2 upcoming webinars. If you were at the IAACE conference, I presented, along with Rob Moore, a training on programs of excellence. It's a new initiative that we rolled out at the state level. If you weren't able to attend IAACE or you weren't able to attend that session, we will be having a webinar on October 26th at 10 a.m. If you have other people on your staff, it could be directors, PDF, or anyone on your staff that you think would benefit from this information, anyone can attend. It is going to be recorded, so it will be available on the Amplify AE website afterwards if you can attend. And then the second one is creating charts using age data from enters. That will be on November 2nd at 10 a.m. The invites will go out 1 week in advance, and I hope to see some of you then. And that's all I have. So back to Jerry.
Thank you very much, Laura. Next up is Camelia. She has lots to share, as you might imagine, about social media.
Thank you, Jerry. To follow up from my presentation at the IAACE conference, as well as sharing some new updates about our social media library today, I will be going over a little bit of what I shared in my presentation at IAACE. And I'll start by giving you all an update with our social media library. In September, I announced that we were unveiling a social media library where you all can access posts to share on your social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, including captions and alternative text. Those posts were specifically geared towards Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. However, they are going to be updated this afternoon with generic adult education posts that include our most recent data to showcase the success of adult education in Indiana. And you can feel free to pull posts from there anytime. There are both instructions that are written out on that webpage, as well as the webinar that I hosted is linked at the bottom of that page. I will be sending out the link to the social media library again after this webinar once the new posts are live. Next slide, please. Thank you. At the IAACE conference, I presented on geofencing, which is a digital marketing tool that is a great way to work towards your mid-year incentive goals if you're struggling to find creative new ways to boost your enrollment numbers. If you were unable to attend that session, would like a copy of the geofencing guide that I passed out, or have additional questions, would like me to walk you through how to do this for your program, please contact me. And if there is enough interest, I will plan on hosting an additional webinar sometime this fall. I'll turn it back over to you, Jerry.
Well, thank you very much. Lots of good information. Well, this gentleman needs no introduction. However, Rob Moore is working with us through IAACE to mentor new adult education administrators. DWD provides dollars to IAACE for Rob to act in this new role. And Rob, I hear since retiring in July, you've been sort of horsing around.
Yes, I have. Matter of fact, that's me in the Grand Tetons National Park taking a horseback ride for a couple hours. So I'm aboard my horse there. Not mine actually, but the one I used there for a couple hours. He did great. But thank you. Yes, I am Rob Moore, the recently retired Director of Adult Education at Monroe County Schools in Bloomington. And as Jerry said, with funding from the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, Office of Adult Education, to our state association, IAACE, I'll be doing some consulting work as an independently contracted person to mentor some of our new adult education directors and programs in an initiative we are affectionately calling the GOAT program. Specifically, I'll be serving as a mentor to our new adult education directors. And as a matter of fact, parenthetically, I'll add that we have about 53 adult education programs in Indiana. 17 have new directors or assistant directors that I'll be working with. In addition, I'll be providing some specialized assistance to some of our programs that are facing particular challenges to achieving their goals. And this initiative altogether started on October 3rd. So just to update you on what I've been doing so far this month. This month, I issued to our new directors the first edition of a document I'm calling Monthly Minders for New Administrators. And in that document, I listed some of the members, actually, hopefully all the members of the adult education state staff and others from DWD, their contact information and their areas of responsibility, so our new directors know who to contact when they have specific questions. I also listed some tasks that new adult education directors should be aware of this month, such as updating errors and inters by October 10th, submitting a monthly reimbursement request for September, attending their various regional meetings and this particular webinar, and things like that. So our new directors know kind of what to prioritize among the deluge of information that they're receiving in their new roles. In addition to that document, I've also been making a circuit around the state visiting these programs that have new directors in person, and those I'll be working with for helping with some ideas for their challenges and discussing topics that are on their mind to help them learn and navigate the adult education system. So I look forward to continue that for the rest of the month and trying to do that several times during the year. So I look forward to continuing this work, and I thank Marilyn and Jerry for this opportunity to remain part of the adult education family. And I'd also like to thank Jen Wigginton, our IAACE Executive Director, for creating a dedicated page to the GOAT program on the IAACE website, and the URL is listed there for you. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them at the end of the webinar. So thank you very much, and back to Jerry.
Well, thank you very much, Rob. Just a very quick question for you. I can ask a quick question. Are you visiting programs by horseback, or do you have more horsepower than just a one cylinder here?
I guess I could go back and get that horse over here in Indiana, but mostly I'm using my, not my white horse, but my white car.
Very good, very good. We're excited to have you mentoring new directors, and as you said earlier, there's 17 plus in programs all across the state of Indiana that will value your help, I'm sure, and your expertise. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Moving on, Amy has several professional development updates. Hello, Amy.
Good morning, Jerry. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Next slide, please. The first thing I'd like to share is the technology-based coaching and adult education toolkit that was released in partnership with OCTAE, Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. The toolkit is available currently and can be very beneficial for programs that have not previously used text messaging to reach out to their students, but can also provide information for programs that are already using text messaging and would like some additional resources. This toolkit includes an introduction and an overview of the technology-based coaching and adult education project, which this toolkit is part of, planning text messages in adult education programs, as well as how to implement text messages within an adult education program. There is an adult education state leadership support section for using text messages as well. And then, of course, appendages, which include the tools, checklist, forms, and resources that are referenced in the toolkit that you can use within your program and modify to fit your program. Next slide, please. I've included a QR code so that if you would like to scan that, you should be able to access the toolkit directly. If you would prefer, please email me. I'm happy to send out the link for that toolkit as well. Next slide, please. The Adult Education Program Development Plan, the first quarter report will be due at the end of the month on October 28th. If you would please send that to me, and my email address is listed there below. If you have any questions as you are working on your plan, please feel free to reach out. I am happy to help in any way that I can to answer any questions and make that process go as smoothly as possible. Next slide, please. Goal number 1 for the first quarter report. Local program will have a table for column J of 68% or greater for program year 22-23. Next slide, please. The critical points related to this first goal is the percentage that left the program prior to a post-test. That's a TABE post-test or a TABE Class E post-test. The percentage that took more than one post-test, whether it be TABE or TABE Class E, without making a measurable skills gain. And 3, percentage that did not complete an IET or a WEI. Those are those points that we need to be addressing on what students are not making it far enough into the program to make a gain for themselves and for your program. Next slide, please. Some useful columns on a table for audit that will help you get the information that you need to address those critical control points are the total number of hours, which is column AL. Column AY is the pretest flag. So if you have a student that has a pretest, has approximately 40 hours, but no post-test or multiple post tests, and no gain. So those are important things to look for. Also column AZ, the post test flag. Column BA are the levels gained. So if a student has not made a gain in whichever assessment they're taking, there will be a 0 in that column. Column BE is the separated flag. So if they've not been with the program for 90 days. Column BF, remaining flag for those students that are remaining with your program that have not had a measurable skills gain. Column BG, IET or WEI. So if they are participating in an IET or WEI, this is where you can separate out those students from your ABE and ELL students, or your HSE and ELL students. Column BH is the IET measurable skills gain flag. So if they have reached the end of that program that you're offering and have not passed the program and have not made a gain, that's where you will locate the information. Column BX is a table for gain type, so that you will know whether it's an AEB, ABE, ELL, IET, WEI. That will indicate where to look. And column CD is the issue text, and there will be information in there as well that can help you discern what type of student you have and where they fall within your program. Next slide, please. Goal number 2, local program will meet or exceed enrollment goal for table 4, column B, as established by the Indiana Adult Education for the program year 22-23. Next slide, please. Critical control points. Percentage signed up for orientation but did not attend. Percentage that did not complete orientation, and percentage that attended 0 or 1 class. Next slide, please. Depending on whether your program has a 4-hour orientation or a 12-hour orientation, you will be able to determine whether a student has, based on those initial hours, whether they have attended at all, attended part or all of the orientation, and then also whether they've even attended a class or not. So useful columns on a table 2A audit. Column AL are the total hours. Column AY are the pre-test flag for students, and column AZ, the post-test flag, and column BA are the levels gained. So you can find that information and enable you to record that onto your quarterly report. Goal number 3, maintain a minimum enrollment of 45% in distance education on NRS table total distance learning, column D, by utilizing the hybrid learning method. So make sure that the distance learning, just as a reminder, is not Zoom hours. It is hours outside of physical or visual contact with their teacher. So if a teacher assigns work to be completed on the student's own time, that is considered distance learning. Next slide, please. Critical control points. Percentage of students making a measurable skill gain while engaging in distance learning, and percentage of students making a measurable skill gain while not engaging in distance learning. This will give you a perspective on the students, that difference between the students that do participate in distance learning and where they are making a gain, and the percentage of students making a gain over the students that do not participate in distance learning. Next slide, please. Total distance learning report. Column D is the percentage of distance participants. That's the entire group that are participating in distance learning. The other 2 important columns to look at are column O and P. O is the percentage achieving a measurable skill gain, and P is the percentage achieving a measurable skill gain participating in distance learning. Next slide, please. Goal number 4, increase number of HSC diplomas by 5% over last program year. We now have the ability to see the HSEs that are what we turn in federally, that are the last gain that a student makes, as well as our total amount of HSEs. Next slide, please. So you will be able to differentiate between what students actually count for on your reports and how many students actually gain an HSE while with your program. Critical strategies. Develop and implement an effective fast-track HSE bootcamp. If you need assistance with that, please reach out to me. Several programs have established fast-track programs that you can use to start your own. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. I can help partner you with those programs that have those established HSE boot camps so that you can start one in your own program if you're needing to do so. Number 2, identify enrolled students at NRS levels 4, 5, and 6 for a boot camp. So if they're in your traditional ABE classes and they've reached an NRS level of 4, 5, or 6, or if they come to your class and their pre-assessment is a level 4, 5, or 6, those are students that can capture the HSE gain fairly quickly with some remediation that is directed specifically toward their weaknesses, and they can pass the HSE fairly quickly. So we want to target that group. Point 3, offer high-set practice tests to students with NRS levels 4, 5, and 6. So if a student comes into your program with a pre-assessment of a level 4, 5, or 6, it would be a good idea in the first few hours to a week or so to go ahead and offer that practice test to students to encourage them to see the connection between the practice test and their readiness. They may not specifically be ready in certain areas, but it will help you target that instruction to get them ready. Point 4, target marketing within the community to reach students who want the fast track option. Many students don't realize that if their skills are strong enough, they can participate in a fast track option. They're not sure maybe what a fast track option is, but they know they want to get through the program as quickly as possible. So marketing to those students will enable them to understand the process as well as find out how to participate so that they can get through as quickly as possible. Next point, target marketing to students who have partially passed the high set. Some students will take one portion at a time. Once they've passed 2 or 3 portions, their kind of motivation and energy to complete may start to wane. Reaching out to those students to encourage them to return to class or continue coming to class so you can target instruction toward those remaining few subtests so that they can complete in a fairly short amount of time. And the last critical point, identify strategies used by teachers with high percentages of HSE graduates. So if there are students within your program or other programs that you know have high percentages of success rate, please feel free to reach out to those teachers and find out what resources and techniques and classroom management they use so that you can use those as well so you can help your students make it through the program as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. So for table 4, you'll want to look at column B, row 17, which is our total HSEs. That is the very first column of information. It is under the grand total for our program's reportable information. It is, I believe it's total gains and then total HSEs is what is available in that order. So the total is not our reportable. Again, it is all students that have an HSE gain. Next slide, please. Goal number 5. Programs will increase IET enrollments by 10% with completions at 90% and certifications at 85%. Next slide, please. Critical control points. Develop and implement effective and in demand for your program's area IET curriculum and curricula. Market the career pathway options available at each site. A student may join your program and not realize that there are there's more than the high school equivalency or ELL classes available to them. So be sure that your orientation coaches and life coaches are bringing that information up to students on a regular basis. Discuss pathways options with students regularly, not just in orientation, but once they're in the classroom as well. That information, they may hear it the first time and it may not, they may not retain it or think it applies to them. So reminding them on a regular basis is important. Present IET options to guidance counselors to recruit high school seniors who are not college bound. Oftentimes students that are not college bound do not know what options are available to them. So please reach out to your local public and private schools to engage with those seniors that have no specific plans, particularly post-secondary education plans, to try and offer services that you have at your program. Partner with adult education programs that have established IETs. Be sure to reach out to either Roy Melton or myself. We are happy to partner you with programs that already have an IET established that you are considering, so that you do not have to reinvent the wheel, and you can use their established IET to get your own program IET up and running. The report that you will need to pull your information from is the IET monthly report. It is located in the local reports rather than the NRS reports. So when you're going to pull that information, Table 4, Table 2A is in the NRS reports. The IET and WEI information is in the local section. Within that, you will be able to find your enrollments, your completions, and your certifications. For the program year 2021 IET data, if you do not have that, please feel free to reach out to me. Roy has shared that information with me, and I can give you any of that information that you would like. And again, my email is listed there below. Goal number 6. Goal number 6 is program will exceed program year 2021-2022, the number of WEI partnerships by 2. Next slide, please. Critical control points for WEI. Develop a list of potential partners within your community. Invite business partners to individual program information sessions so that you can explain to those business partners how you can best serve them and their employees. Canvas partners for educational needs. Some programs have reached out to business partners that are within their community that they think they can partner with, and then they work to find a way to partner with those businesses. Create programs to fit partner needs. So again, reaching out to potential partners and finding out what those needs are, and then finding ways to work with that program, with that business, so that your program can create a WEI to benefit that business partnership and their employees. Next slide, please. The WEI monthly data report, again, pulled from the local rather than from the NRS reports. You will be able to, you'll need to pull the partnerships for program 2021. Again, if you need that information, feel free to reach out to me. I can give you that information for your program. You'll be able to pull your information for 2022 and distinguish separate partnerships. So what that means is if your adult education program partners with your local school corporation to do paraprofessional and CDLB, that is considered one partnership because it is with your local school corporation. So those are not considered separate partnerships. Those are considered one partnership because it is one business that you're interacting with, the school corporation. So please make sure that you're distinguishing separate partnerships. Next slide, please. The next professional development facilitator meeting is on October 28th. It is virtually at 10 a.m. If anyone happens to have questions while they're working on their reports, particularly on the sections where there's addressing barriers or what those barriers are and how you're addressing those, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. And then again, those will be due on the 28th, and as well as our PDF meeting will be on the 28th. So it'll be a busy week that last week of the month. So if anyone needs help, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Thank you, Jerry. That's all I have for today.
Thank you so much, Amy. Roy's here to discuss certifications and labor market data. Hello, Roy.
Good morning, Jerry, and good morning, Indiana. It is wonderful to be seeing you all again, or I guess the screen. It was great to see all of you at IAACE. So I guess we'll get right to it since we already have the slide up for me. So I wanted to discuss some of the information I presented at IAACE. Here are some of the certs. Here are all the certs that we did last program year. Most were done in IETs, but some were done in WIs using the progress milestone. For example, the first makerspace, that progress milestone was achieved by participants who successfully completed the first makerspace training. The hot shot first makerspace training includes learning how to use a 2D computer software to create models for laser cutting and 3D printing, building a 3D printer from scratch, and operating an industrial laser cutter. The 913 skills training was a WI where they used the context of building bicycles as a tool for a variety of activities that allow basic mechanical aptitude training to occur as participants look to pursue entry-level employment with an automobile dealership. So those are just a couple of examples of certifications that we did outside of the IET space. Next slide, please. I also wanted to present a quick couple of slides on the top 5 certifications done by region. This may help you to know who is doing what if you are looking to partner with other programs. These are listed from greatest to least. In Region 1, they do a lot of NCCER, but they did the most parapros in the state. Region 2 did the most CLA, or Certified Logistics Associate, and Region 3 did the most welding certs in the state. Next slide, please. Region 5 does a lot of medical certifications, and they do the most medical interpreting in the state. Region 6 does the most customer service and sales certifications. That is done by National Retail Federation. Region 8 does the most HVAC in the state. During IAACE, we were able to learn from Rob about what made that program so successful. Next slide, please. Region 9 coming in tough with the most CPT, or Certified Production Tech. In some other places, you may see CPT stand for Certified Phlebotomy Tech, just FYI. IDOC does the most NCCR and OSHA 10 certifications. It has been great getting to know and work with Paula from IB Tech that handles the IDOC contract. Next slide, please. The top 15 certifications that we did for 2021 through 2022 program year are listed here. As you see, NCCR is the one we did the most of. IDOC is the leader, but Region 5, 1, and 6 are also leaders in NCCR. Along with construction, logistics, and medical are the sectors we do the most certifications for. I would like to encourage programs to look into some of these certifications. Another good one to investigate is the Child Development Associate. It is a state requirement, and you can partner with the Indiana Association for the Education of Young Children, or INAEYC. Next slide, please. As Jerry mentioned, I do want to share some labor market information. These resources here are really good for you if you want to look at very data by the region, and they have where you can kind of select your region and look up specifically the employers and the top industries in your area, so you can kind of guide your IETs and trainings that way. Next slide, please. Here are some of the major employers in Indiana. You will notice a lot of universities or hospitals. These employers not only have staff that need certifications, they also have staff that may need high school equivalency diplomas or ELL remediation. Delphi Electronics is in Kokomo, and Roche Diagnostics is in Indy, and they are a biotech company. I look forward to working with programs to continue partnerships or make contact with new employers and create new partnerships. Next slide, please. Here, I just wanted to share some information that I got from the quarterly census of employment and wages. This is for Indiana, looking at the top industries by sector. looking based off the number of employees. So I included the number of workers so you can see how they kind of catalog that, and then also the annual salary to kind of help you, figure out what some of these folks will be making. And when you talk with students, this may be useful information as well. I think we do cover a lot of these sectors: manufacturing, healthcare, obviously. We do some retail, and then of course we also do the transportation, where we mentioned the certified logistics and things like that. So I think we do have some of these covered, and I think we can grow in some of these. I know that we do have kind of a backlog for some of the CDL A or CDL B in certain regions. So I know that there is a demand there. Next slide, please. Looking a little bit closer at some of the industries, I wanted to talk about some of the highest employment increases looking over the last 5 years. And so this does include some of the effects of COVID, of the initial pandemic. Healthcare, obviously, and social assistance employment has grown by 5.8% in the last 5 years. Looking at transportation and warehousing, this industry has also been a target for economic development. This industry grew by 20.5% in the 5-year period. This industry showed growth even during the pandemic. So I want you to keep that in mind as well. The construction industry grew by 13%. This sector grew slowly early in the economic recovery, but has gained momentum in recent years. Professional and technical services have shown healthy growth from 2015 to 2022. This is an industry that will be key to Indiana's future. Among the industries of this sector can contain legal services, architectural and engineering, research and development, and computer systems design and related services. I will pay particular attention to computer systems design or information technology. There will be a lot of growth in that. And then finally, we also have utilities. It's one of the smaller industries in Indiana. It did increase by just under 1%, about 136 jobs. It did gain jobs during 2020, so that is something to keep in mind as well. That is all that I have for today. Please have a great day.
Thank you so much, Roy. Lots of good information in such a short period of time. Matt, hello.
Well, hello, Jerry. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I have 3 really huge announcements for Inters. Number one, please welcome Anshu Sharma to the team. She's going to be helping me with things with Inters. She's still training, so we'll go easy on her. Anshu, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anshu Sharma. I recently joined the adult education team as a policy and data analyst, and I'll be primarily working on BOMGAR and Inters, as Matt said. So it's my pleasure to meet each one of you here, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Anshu. Okay. Announcement number 2. Instead of emailing Anshu or I directly, we now have an email box for Inters, and apparently we've had it for a long time, and it is inters@dwd.in.gov. 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 Okay, so basically, if you have dupes to combine, you've got questions, email that inbox. Anshu and I both have access to it. We will both be responding from it. So any of the questions that you would normally ask me or anyone else that's Inters related, or any of those questions like, does this student count or not, email those questions to that inbox instead of just to me. That way she can take a look at them and start learning some of the things that you guys have issues with or struggle with. The third thing is, if you are a data user and or your data user is not a part of the statewide call or any of the region meetings, please email that inbox. We are trying to put together a master list of Inters users so that if there's an outage, if there's a problem that happens, or we need to send an email from Inters, that it goes to the right people that know that Inters is messed up. So have your people or you email requesting to be added to the mailing list for Inters. And that is all I have. And go easy on Anshu. She's on her 3rd week, I think. So we'll get her there. Thanks, Jerry.
We certainly will. Thank you. And what was that mailbox again, Matt?
Well, just like I said, it's inters@dwd.in.gov. So it's a black hole too. Go ahead and send everything into that, and nobody's going to respond. So.
Oh, Matt. Well, let's move on to Jen. Jen, great conference. We all found, except for one of our staff members, we all easily found Florence, Indiana. If it had not been for Rob Moore helping her flag her in, which she would have not found Florence and Belterra. But it was a wonderful conference, a wonderful ceremony. So thank you so much to not only you, but to IAACE, the team, the conference committee did a wonderful job. So thank you. And I know you want to share a little bit about the conference.
I do. I've heard a lot about the conference throughout this call. And so next slide, please. I want to remind you that we are still taking your feedback from the conference or on the conference. The link there is at the bottom, IAACE.com 2022 conference. I won't repeat it 5 times, but we know that you have to hear things 5 times in order for it to register. So I have more than once, I think it's been pretty close to 5 times, told you about the conference survey, but I will remind you that if we get to 247 responses on this survey, then we will provide you the exhibitor game in PDF form so that you can print and display. There will be a nice website that you will also be able to display as well if you'd like. But that exhibitor game with the high school graduates, all the famous ones, was throughout our sponsors, and the feedback from the sponsors were that they really enjoyed that. They liked being able to hide it if they want, or leave it just out in the open if they wanted as well. We couldn't have done it without all of those sponsors. So if you work with any of those that are listed there, I'm not going to read them. Take the time to thank them the next time that you see them, or talking with them, because they help us keep the expenses down, which makes it more affordable for you guys. We couldn't do it without the committee, but all of the attendees, all of the volunteers, the sponsors, DWD, all of us together made it successful. And so honestly, I want to thank each and every one of you. And if I could shake everyone's hand, I would. So please take a look at that sponsor. Now, one of the greatest things about the conference to me is always the award program. You can see the link there in the bottom of this slide that shows you the award history. So check that out. Will be updated soon for this year. They never get enough stage time whenever it comes to the award winners, in my opinion. So I'm going to give them a little stage time currently. Next slide. We recognized retirees, Marla Cook, Diana Graskin, and Rob Moore. Marla and Diana were not able to be with us, but Rob was, so he received his IAACE plaque. Next slide. Ann Wright from Indy Reads program won the Outstanding Volunteer Tutor. Next. Heartland Business Group, Todd accepted the award in their honor for the Business Partner of the Year. Next. The Outstanding Paraprofessional went to Deborah Thomason. She is in the River Valley area. Next. Maria, I know I'm going to mispronounce your name, Maria, a last name, and I even practiced before, Avgis. She is from Ivy Tech Community College, Newcastle Correctional Facility. Congratulations as a new outstanding educator. Heidi Kelly won the adult educator from River Valley, Franklin County area. Next. Greg Jones with Ivy Tech Corrections won the outstanding administrator. Next. I think we definitely surprised Marilyn Pizzulo with the Teachers Credit Union. It was also a surprise to nearly everyone in the room. Of course, TECU know how they who they picked, but only 2 of the rest of us actually knew who won, and we kept it super secret so that there would be a true surprise. And I believe we pulled that off with Marilyn. Next slide. The outstanding adult learner was from CWI, and that was Mallory Bouch. I think that was another surprise. I think she honestly did not know she was receiving that award. And I think there's a couple more. We gave 2 Craddock Awards this year. Marla Cook for her long service to adult education, recently retired. She was unable to be with us. And the next slide is Steve and Diana Elmore. They are from the Wayne Township area, volunteers for a long time. And all of that, all the awards will be on the website very soon for you to be able to share. And there is some stuff on social media as if you'd like to share the success of others as well. Next, and congratulations to every single one of them. We did recognize all of the nominees as well for the first time. So that's something you can certainly put in the survey. If you would like to share how you like the award program, we'd greatly appreciate it. Next slide. So the other part of conference was the student leadership track, and I believe we pulled off a pretty successful leadership track for the first time. 15 students were trained. A student council was formed, so they are going to provide leadership to adult learners across the state in regards to the student leadership track. Representative Davis was able to spend some time with them and have them practice their skills and their storytelling. Joe Loftus, our lobbyist, was also able to visit and spend some sit-down time with them. And there's some pictures on our Facebook page if you'd want to check them out from the student leadership track. And we'll be adding some of their stories and that sort of stuff to the student leadership track page that's on the bottom. So keep your eye on that. And in your survey, you might want to let us know where you'd like the next leadership track. Would you like one before next conference? Would you like it somewhere in Indianapolis? Would you like it north? Share with us so that we can provide you what you need. Next slide. I will let you know that the award nominations for 2023 will open in May of 2023. And there's been some feedback coming in already in regards to when those nominations open, and it being right before a lot of you stop for the summer and not having the time whenever you get back. So if you want to provide feedback on that, more feedback on that, if we need to open it earlier, but note that it's anyone who's done outstanding work in any of 2022 or any of 2023. So it doesn't have to be limited to just the 2023 year. Obviously, with the moving the conference to the fall, there's some adjustment periods. So let us know what needs to be changed, and note that anybody in 2022 that does great work also can be nominated. We'll be going back up north in 2023, September 27th, 28th, and 29th at Michigan City, and we'll be back at Blue Chip Casino. So if you are interested in being on the conference committee, that's another suggestion in the conference survey. If you are interested in doing even strand lead, any little part, there's lots of little jobs that you don't necessarily have to attend every single conference meeting each month, but there's lots of little jobs that you can help with in order for us to pull off an even more successful conference next year. So I encourage you to each take a look at that. Next slide, please. One of the things that we did at the conference is we had the You might have heard us call it the platform. You might have heard us call it the app. You might have heard us call it the community, but it is your virtual platform access. It's where we'll put all the professional development. We will be rolling out the keynotes. All the keynotes were recorded. We will be rolling those out onto the platform. Probably not until November. The downloads are quite extensive and some editing has to be done in order to get that pulled off. But I will encourage you, I've heard lots of inquiries on a space that you can have forum discussions, a place that you can go that you guys can talk with your work groups. And that's exactly what the platform can be utilized for. You can form a group, and some of the committees already have, like communications and advocacy, I believe. And I can't remember the others that have already formed groups, but you can form a group. You can make it private. You can make it where anybody can join, but I really encourage you to use that space to talk and converse and network. One of the greatest successes of the conference was the networking and the organizational sessions, the whole wrap up, that teamwork. I hope you met a lot of new smiling faces that you could say hi to as you went through the halls. And this is the space that you can create to follow up with them. There is no rules or regulations on what kind of group you have to or you can form. So I encourage you to utilize that space to be what you want it to be. Next slide, please. We rolled it out in the Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, but here it is again, at least twice, maybe 5 times. The Adult Learner Essay Contest has officially been rolled out. The theme is, how will adult education help me reach the next level? I encourage you to utilize this within your programs as possibly a writing assignment so that you can get all the essays turned in by December 15th. Now, granted, it's only mid-October, so if you assign it now, then the students have plenty of time to create the essay that will represent your program and them the best. So start the work on it now so that you can get the deadline by December 15th. It is all open. All the information is on that link there at the bottom, IAAC.com essay contest. All the outline is there as well. So take a look at that. And the top 10 will be recognized at the Adult Education Day, which is on the next slide. The other part of Adult Education Day is the business partner recognition. Now you might want to ask, why are we recognizing the business partners whenever we just had the awards and we could have all nominated the awards? This business partner recognition really is about giving them the attention and the marketing that they deserve for assisting your programs. I would love to see at least one from every single program across the entire state. I think that's a good goal. So I encourage you to take a look at that business partner recognition form, submit your nominees, and then the next slide. We're working on a lot of changes on the website. If you go to the next slide, please. The advocacy successes that you are doing, the stories that you are doing, the governor's proclamation. Oh, the slide's missing, I guess. There was one slide missing that had all of the links on it. So go to the website, IAAC.com, and under advocacy, there's an advocacy where you can submit your advocacy success stories. And what I would really love to see is a picture from every single program in regards to some success that you've had with advocating, or perhaps just something that's going on within your organization. We want to add those pictures to the website as a flip. The governor's proclamation is also working its way across the state. If you would like to make sure that you get your picture time with the governor's proclamation, then send me an email and I'll make sure that you get put on the list. But there is also the link on there for success stories of students. So I encourage you to check that out. I think that's all I got, Jerry.
Well, thank you very much, Jen. Again, lots of good information, and we didn't even mention Adult Education Week, which was very successful as well. So thank you very, very much for all your hard work. Well, thank you for joining. Yes. Thank you for joining us this morning. The next Adult Education and Workforce Development statewide webinar will be on November 9th at 10 a.m. Matt, I know there will be some questions. I know Adam is still with us, and I'm sure there will be some high-set questions, so ask away.
There are, but first, let me apologize, Adam. I was kidding about the email. I know you guys are working really hard, and you're not only just working with us, you've got several other states. So I apologize for the email comment. So here I'm going to try to organize the high-set questions because there were quite a few. First one, we're going to go with Lauren Bell's.
Before we begin, I'd just like to ask a favor. Since you have them organized, if someone could either cut and paste them into a file and email them to me at the conclusion of this webinar, that would be very useful. Because as you guys know, Matt, we get along. We have a great relationship. When you joke with me, I know what we're really doing is letting steam off. This is a situation that many people are rightfully frustrated over. And in Florence, I had quite an earful of it. And we all understand our roles here. I don't take it personally, but I do want to be an effective advocate for the educators of the state of Indiana. And what makes me effective is when I have, as Megan knows, concrete, discrete details. So Matt, to the degree to which that we can codify these into a document for me, the takeaway, I will make sure. And here's what I want to promise everyone before we start. Quite frankly, a lot of times the answer is I don't know, but I will find out. But one thing that I will do is make sure that your concerns are forwarded to the right people. I think you noticed that I was able to get some very high-level people to join this meeting, and I'll continue to work for the educators. Actually, quite frankly, Jerry and Megan know this. My flag is planted with the students and the adult ed programs, and I feel very strongly about that. So let's. All right, Matt, fire away. I'm wearing my red, white, and blue tie. Let's see what we can do for America today.
All right. So this is from Lauren Bell. Will there ever be a change in checking in testers in real time? This is a nightmare for us.
The simple answer is yes, absolutely. The goal is the promise was that the system would seamlessly operate the way it did under the previous ETS system, and that continues to be the operational goals.
Okay. Next one is from Denise Esslinger. How long does it take for an age waiver to be approved?
Okay, so age waivers are one of the bulleted target items for improvement. And currently, there is a form that is posted on the Indiana website that you fill out. There's an attestation you need to complete. Obviously, we don't control that part. I realize that's not really your question, but I'm going to answer it completely. So once those documents are submitted, today, so you guys, I've worked for 30 years in education. I've had tech people make a lot of promises to me. When you work with tech people, quite frankly, until I see it actually working, like a week later is when I want to have confidence in it. But what I am told and what we were announced this morning is that there is now a toggle switch that's operational on the website so that once state of Indiana approves an age waiver, it can simply be toggled on. Those are, and Megan, in the past, I sent you an email. I wasn't quite sure, and forgive my ignorance. Okay. Were you the one that once an age waiver was approved? Who was it that went into the system and toggled it?
It was the test. It was the test center's administration. As long as we trusted them that they had the correct information and the correct form on file that they needed, which was the exit form that I talked briefly this morning about. And so when if they had questions, they would come to me, but they were just able to just go in, click a button in the ATS system and say that, yes, we acknowledge that this person is under 18, but we are giving them permission to take the test. That's correct, right, Rob? There was like a little button you just clicked on.
Yes, that's what I seem to remember. It's just a real simple checkbox.
Yeah. So that feature is being it's a code issue for those of you that understand coding, and that issue is being added theoretically operational today.
Thank you, Adam.
What's important for our test centers is that they keep that exit interview form with your superintendent's signature, that hard copy on file somewhere, so that if your test center is monitored, you can produce
Yes.
that. But PSEI doesn't need that form that we keep. They just need whatever checkbox they're going to put on.
We need an official notification. And a
All right.
picture of Rob on a horse. Every application has to have a accompanying picture of you on a horse now.
I'm gonna try to keep all these age. There's several age questions, so I'm gonna ask this first, and I think this is more a state question. If a student is 18 and withdraws from school to get their HSE, do we still need the exit interview even if they are 18? Jerry.
They're no longer subject to compulsory school attendance, so the answer is no. They just cannot be in school. They have to.
And then Michelle Ellis, I want to make sure I understand. As long as the exit form is filled out and properly signed, there is no other documents needed for under age 18 to test.
Correct.
Okay, Michelle, there you go. Cool. All right, let's go back to normal questions. Todd DeLay asked, okay, so I mailed out a paper pencil test yesterday to the new address for HiSET. Is he okay? Is that all good?
Yeah. So there were some people that were frustrated that they had not gotten the address. There was registration issues creating paper pencil testing. Those are the task force has said that they've resolved those. One of the things that was happening is good people with good intentions for their students were trying to look up, we're looking up email addresses and actually paying for postage themselves to send these tests in, or in some cases returning them to ETS. If with good intentions, we're not pointing fingers here, you are a test administrator who returned a test to ETS using that original UPS label, all of those tests are being forwarded from ETS to PSI where they will be scored. If you are returning paper-based testings, please make sure that you are using the prepaid labels that are issued through the PSI website. If you do not have them, here we go. You are to reach out to siteadmin@psionline.com and make sure that you get those labels so that they go to the right place. If the correct label is used and the tests arrive at the PSI scoring center, the projected timeline is supposed to remain the same. That is for multiple choice, really for everything but the essay, all of the multiple choice questions. Once those are received, 3 business days to be posted to the student's My HiSET account, and for the essays, 5 business days to be posted to the student's My HiSET account. This was true under ETS. Sometimes people would get frustrated because they would submit the test and they'd say, "Oh, it's been a week, I haven't seen anything." But it's 3 business days and it's full business days. So we do have to give the, if it arrives in the mail on a Friday, the 3 business days are going to start on the following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that.
Oddly enough, Adam, the city and state, so that they know they have the right label, is actually Lafayette, Indiana. Am I not correct? That's where it's going.
I'm sorry.
Where the return tests are going, actually the correct city and state, so that they know, is Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, actually, that is so new that may be true for the state. The 3 magic words, I don't know, Jerry. I do know that there's regional centers that PSI use. ETS used one address for everybody. I believe PSI is using regional centers, and if they're sending it to Lafayette, Indiana, that bodes well for the timeline turnaround for the students of Indiana.
You bet. And I'm sorry, Megan, I interrupted you. Please go right ahead.
You're good. I was just going to say, as far as the labels are concerned, I did send out communication first thing this morning, like as soon as I got it from PSI regarding the labels. Please check your emails because you should have received it this morning. If you do have any questions or concerns, please contact site admin. I know just as much as you know. I wish I knew more, but I don't, so I can't really help you as far as the labels are concerned. But please do keep me in the loop.
I just have to jump in and tell you guys something that you all already know. Megan has been at the front of a train that's been going through an insect swarm. She'll just be polite here. She's had to really deal with a lot of stuff, and she has tirelessly used literally every resource available to her to try to further your questions to the right person or the right people. And that email, I saw the email you sent out this morning, Megan. I had gotten it literally not even a minute before she turned around and resent it out. So I just want to kudos to Megan for the effort that she's been making on behalf of the educators and students of Indiana. Hasn't
Thank
been
you, Adam.
easy, huh, Megan?
No, it has not been, not by any means.
No.
All right, we're ready for more
But I
questions.
just do want to reiterate that email that Megan sent out, if you're not familiar with what she's talking about, please check your inboxes, because it does contain the latest and most efficient way to get those paper-based tests submitted.
All right, we're going to move on because Laura's computer is probably going to restart here in like any minute, which is fine. The slides are done. We'll just be on face for all of the rest of it. All right, Chris Johnson asked, will you please explain the timing for testing? How long before and after the scheduled time can a tester be checked in?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How long before and after the scheduled time can a tester be checked in?
I'm not sure. That would be a question for site admin.
Okay.
I know that there's a 24-hour registration, but I'm not sure about the check-in.
Okay, for the how long they have to actually do it. Okay. Chris Johnson, if you're still on the call, email Megan that question and she can follow up with.
I will say this, sorry to interrupt, while I'm thinking about it, because I know her computer's going to shut down, is that they are aware, I have made PSI aware that you have to have 2-hour increments when you're doing the testing, not 4 hours. They are working on it. You have emailed me all of the situations in an Excel spreadsheet. I will be sitting that in today. If you have not emailed me any situations regarding phone calls and or actual issues while testing or when testing, please do that so I can make for sure that the upper hand people in PSI get it. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Okay, so the next thing that I have is more of a statement, and then there was a follow-up post from somebody else. So a program's test administrator just tried the waiver form again with the new instructions you just give, and it didn't work. How do we proceed? But then someone else said, I just attempted the new process for the age waiver in the TCA portal and is not showing under the drop-down menu. It shows in the instructions. So maybe Adam, you can go back through with your team or whatever on the instructions of make sure that what's being said is actually what's on the website or vice versa. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because I think that confused some people that it's moved or whatever for the waiver form.
Well, and I know, yes, sir.
Yeah, they're changing stuff all the time. I got you. Okay. So this may have already been answered, but when we tested students in writing, we got percentages. What do those percentages mean? And do students use Diploma Center to get a copy of their diploma still?
Yes, on the
Okay.
second part of the question.
Okay, so yes on the second part. And the first part, what do the percentages mean, Adam?
I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly, but I do know that the writing scores on the individual score report, there are percentages given for the entire written subtest, not necessarily the essay. I know that for the essay, you receive a score of technically 0, but usually 1 to 6, 0 to 6, and that the scoring rubric is available on the hiset.org website.
Okay.
I'm not sure what percentages mean. Percentages do appear on the individual score report, but they're for the entire written subtest.
That's fine.
Not just the essay.
I'll take a little shot at this one because I think I may know. If you're talking about the percentages when you're looking at the score report, it's usually something that's talking about like how well they did in each of those little categories. And so
yeah, the process categories.
Yeah, if you look on the at a glance, you will see that how the questions are broken down into what percentages. So the percentages that you're seeing on the comprehensive report has to do with the at a glance about how well a student tested or did not test in a certain area or category that was in that field on a test.
All right. Megan, I'll try to get you some. The lady left the call, so
Okay.
she can't email you that specific thing to try to explain to him. But
Okay.
let's see what we can do.
All right. Thank you.
How can we control a schedule? How can we control to schedule a student with accommodations? Currently, these students must work with PSI to schedule their test, and either they show up to test with no accommodations set up, or the student never gets scheduled at all. Is that another site admin at?
That's a site admin, and accommodations is one of the pieces that PSI is working very hard to get fully in place. But the process is that you apply for an accommodation. Once it's approved, PSI handles the scheduling and the providing of the accommodation at no additional cost to either test center or student.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. So I scheduled a writing exam for a student.
You're right. It's not actually site admin. It's the exam accommodations team.
Oh,
and
okay.
that link is on our website. It's on the highset.org website. I misspoke.
No problem, madam. All right, I scheduled a writing exam for a student, and she was assigned the same form that she took on July 11th through ETS. How can this be?
I'm not sure. That's not a situation I'm familiar with, and clearly that is not supposed to happen.
Well, okay, so she did test with ETS. Maybe that information didn't actually get pushed to PSI, and it was. Charlene, please email Megan.
We would need more to investigate something like that. We would need more specifics and more details.
That's fine. I'm going to have her email Megan, and Megan can talk with you about it, and we can get you student-specific information.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, here's a suggestion from Amy Wood. Can we get the price of the test either hidden to students or be the $23 we charge instead of the $10.50 we pay PSI?
Noted. Please submit that. Certainly, that's something I can acknowledge, and it's a suggestion. Yes.
Well, I see where she's coming from. If I were the student and I have to pay $23 out of pocket or whatever, and it says $10.50, why am I paying $23? Oh.
Right.
And the other the other workaround would just be, and I hate to tell test centers this, and some of them already do this, is to just go ahead and register your students themselves, so then they don't ever see it, the price of it. That would be the other workaround as well. But please do email me that, and I will try to see if I can't get some answers.
All right. Have tests from assignments been figured out yet? I am talking about a PBT being given assigned forms after they have begun the test check-in. I don't even have any idea what that means.
So what they're saying
not sure what that means.
So here's what they're saying is, and this is the reason why I know, because I've seen this question a few times now. So what they're saying is that when you go to register a test before with ETS, it would tell you exactly what test and what form you were going to give. So for example, if Jane Doe came in, Jane Doe would have to take the writing in Form A, take the math in Form B, and take the reading in Form C originally. Well, what they're saying is they're not telling people that. So now when they're actually checking in, which is the day of, that is when they're being notified of the forms. So this makes an issue, especially for the people who are at the jails, because the people who are going to test at the jails, they have tests. They don't bring all their testing equipment. They literally have it marked for each student what each student is supposed to receive and what form with the answer sheet inside of that form. And that way when a tester goes to test, they know exactly what book they're getting and what form they're getting for what subtest. They're not being notified now until they are actually now saying, okay, this person's here, this person's ready to test. So it makes it an inconvenience because they have to now bring all the materials with them and now give them the test versus being prepared beforehand. That's the issue. So if we don't know who is getting what form and we don't know in a proper time, again, they have to take all the materials with them and then try to sort it out right there in front of the individual.
And that's
Well, Megan, I know that the team is aware of this issue and is certainly considering the options at this time.
And behind all that is and behind all that is an additional security issue for the test being compromised because they have additional tests on their body, so to speak, when they go in. So
correct.
Okay, Elizabeth, I hope that answered your question. If you have any further questions, go ahead and email Megan with that. All right. Another one from Amy Wood about scheduling. So we had a tester scheduled for 1 p.m., but scheduled with PSI for 12 p.m. time slot, and the student was emailed the 12 p.m. that confused them since we had them scheduled for 1 p.m. Now, I don't know if that's a PSI or a communication issue. Amy, do you want to clarify, please? I'm waiting on her to do that.
Sorry, the lights went out.
You're fine. You've been sitting there too still. Oh, she's saying that the email from PSI confuses them on times.
Would it be a difference in, I don't know, I'm not looking at it, would it be a difference in the time zones?
I think everybody's on Eastern, especially Amy. And no, she said no, it's not.
Okay, let me confirm.
Amy, if you could submit details, we would be able to look into that. Certainly, I care about your students. We care about your students' experiences, but it's hard to comment on a specific case without knowing the specific test take issues and details.
Right. It's like with anything else, Adam. You need more details than just a general question like this. Okay, I think unless no one else has any more HiSET questions, thank you for your time, Adam. Seriously, I know it's a process. So I still have other questions. So Jerry, here's one for you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you can go. Thanks, Adam.
Just the need to go off video. I know the protocol, Matt. If I'm not answering questions, I go on video. Again, I really want to thank Jerry and Megan and Matt and the entire team in Indiana for your patience as we go through this process. We are a solution-oriented team, and we are working to provide increasing numbers of solutions on a daily, hourly basis. Thank you.
All right. So Jerry, is the rule still no paying for HiSET staff time with ABE grant funds?
Yes.
Okay, and then there's a follow-up to that, and I got to scroll down because it's from Lauren. Referring back to my question to Jerry, if I, as a director, begin to start helping to do the actual testing of students, does part of my salary have to come from our outside HiSET account?
You cannot use ABE funds to pay that portion of your time that you're administering the HiSET. It would have to come from funds that you're collecting for giving the HiSET or from some outside funds unrelated to adult education funds. And by the way, that is not a DWD requirement. That is an unallowable expense at the federal level. So all states cannot use adult education funds that you receive in order to pay for the administration.
Okay, I think
hi everybody, it's Marilyn. I just wanted to add to that. I was going to say what Jerry said, that's not our law, that comes down from the feds, but also because all of our state dollars are currently used as a match to the federal, they have to meet all of those requirements. So Fed dollars, state dollars, doesn't matter, cannot use it for testing.
Yeah. And that's
All
way it's been for decades. So
Now I have some Donna questions. I'm gonna try to, I mishmash through these questions instead of going in order to try to keep it. All right, so this is from Lauren Bell. For those of us who do not have executed contract yet, is there a date that you expect to have those out? My university keeps asking.
I cannot say what that date will be. I can only tell people where they are in the process and approximately how long it might be, since everyone has gone through the review part, which is the longest, and going through the signature portion. I'll keep checking for the remaining ones to see how much closer we are, and I'll send something out in a day or two to update everybody who's still waiting.
Okay, I have one more for you. This is from Cynthia Johnson, and she asked, also, we have submitted reimbursement. Will those be processed after all the contracts are executed? And thank you for all of your hard work.
Well, I appreciate that. You can, if you have a fully executed contract, you can go ahead and send in your reimbursements now. We'll go ahead and process those, and then we'll get to the budget modification part later. And that's why we did it this way, so people would have access to their funding as soon as possible. If we had gone back and done the modification to everything, it would have stopped the contract process, and we'd be several weeks later getting any funding out to the field. So send in your reimbursements as your budget shows now, not as it's going to be.
And that's all I got for you, Donna. Thank you. Jerry, okay, you're going to love this question. So I think you kind of covered this last month, but we'll go over it again. And this is from Kathy Tobias. Our 3 area school superintendents are now reluctant to sign off on exit withdrawals of students who have not attended their schools, especially homeschool students. What are we to do if a superintendent refuses to sign an exit withdrawal?
well, that's a very difficult question, and it's not the exit interview per se. It's the recommendation to take the HSE test. That is in statute. That is part of law, and you will need to find a superintendent or principal or designee from outside those school corporations to sign for that recommendation for that student to take the HSE. Any superintendent or principal or designee of any school district that is legally defined in the slide that I showed to you earlier this morning may sign, but it is the right of the superintendent for him or her to refuse to sign that recommendation. That's certainly within their right. I know this places a burden, a barrier for students, but they need to, the program and or the student needs to find someone who is willing to sign that recommendation.
And I think Rob had a comment or a question to Megan about a principal being able to sign for a superintendent, which is what you just said sounds like that's okay.
That's indeed, that was changed, the form was changed, and it is the superintendent or principal or his or her designee may sign the recommendation for the student to take the HSE, and that is any superintendent in the state of Indiana.
All right.
As defined in statute.
Have we got any more questions? We don't have any more.
Thank you.
Wow, Jerry. Oh, Marilyn, go ahead.
So just before Jerry closes, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for all of your hard work and for everything that you do. I was Incredibly humbled to receive the TCU award, but I know that any kudos that I get is entirely because of the work that you do. And so I just want you to know that, you know, heartfelt thanks for all of your great work. And I look forward to this upcoming year and session and seeing what we can do to expand adult education and adult education services throughout the state of Indiana. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Well, as I said, please join us on November 9th as we continue to work out the HISET issues, and please keep Megan in the loop. I do read all the emails that come to Megan just to be on top of some of the similar issues, and we'll continue to reach out. But thank you very much. We'll see you on November 9th at 10 o'clock.